New Super Mario Bros. U was a game that I enjoyed the first time I played it on its native console. The fact that it was literally a sequel to the Wii title with a bit more polish and some new elements was enough to sell me on it, as was the addition of New Super Luigi U, a tougher version of the main campaign featuring Mario's lovably floaty brother. Putting this game on the shelf, I almost forgot about its existence until the news that it was receiving the Deluxe treatment, with a complete port for the Nintendo Switch. Join me as I discuss my thoughts on this Deluxe port in the form of a review. Before you do though, please hit that subscribe bell and like button, as well as giving me suggestions to improve my content, as I'm trying to make this a full-time endeavor going forward and would appreciate any and all support. Let's get into it. Hopping into this game, you're greeted by a short cutscene that's almost the inverse of what happens in the Wii game. Mario and Co are enjoying a spot of tea and cake at Peach's castle when suddenly Bowser and his family swoop in to spoil the occasion. Rather than grabbing Peach, however, they take the rest of the ensemble and fling them to the far side of the map. Dusting themselves off, this ragtag group of heroes must rescue their princess and reclaim her castle. In terms of presentation, the art style is... it just kinda is. It's very uninspired and is literally just the Wii game upscaled to 1080p, yay. It's clean, but the backgrounds, platforms and such are incredibly bland looking. Even more so than this are the characters. They all look strangely shiny and don't seem to have enough edges or definition or something. It's very polygonal even though it's clean. I don't like it. The entire world basically looks like it's made out of bright plastic and not in an intentional or cool way. The Van Gogh-inspired level, Painted Swampland, is honestly one of the only I could really remember that doesn't feel as though it came from the Wii game, but even that level isn't really anything mind-blowing. I shouldn't have to bring up such a mediocre attempt at originality just to try and salvage such a bland graphical style. In addition to this, the soundtrack is as dull as I remember it, or rather, don't. It matches the art style perfectly, which is not at all a good thing. The electronically produced tracks are becoming glaringly unlikable next to those orchestrated ones found in newer Mario games, and this was even the case for the original Wii U version, which came after the Galaxy games introduced orchestrated Mario soundtracks. This game's soundtrack has literally no defining characteristics and doesn't do the game any favors in having its own identity. Now it's time to discuss the gameplay and see if that can do the game any favors. Now, one thing I can say here is that Mario is Mario. Even when it's uninspired, it still gives you hours of fun regardless of whether you really shake up the experience, you know. This must have been the mindset the developers had when they churned this thing out, because, once again, this is basically just the same as the Wii game. The difference is that the Wii game actually did a lot to set itself apart and build upon the DS original. This wasn't the case on the Wii U, and it still isn't with the port. This game suffers from the same problems as its Wii predecessor, perhaps to an even greater degree. An abundance of 1-ups and items you'll acquire without even trying, as well as no real penalty for losing all your lives, is chief among these. Now granted, I don't mind being able to jump back into the level after being wiped out, but this didn't even happen to me once. The level design and bloated time limit are not at all designed to push you, which only makes this influx of 1-ups all the more ridiculous and meaningless. I'm pretty sure you could give somebody from 200 years ago who wouldn't even understand what a television is, let alone comprehend the act of gaming, this game, and they could complete it without losing all their lives even once. The low stakes here lead to a lack of enjoyment, and so basically, you just shut off and go through the motions while you're playing. This attitude of hand-holding is accentuated by the fact that you can now acquire the game-breaking item known as the P-Acorn in the normal course of gameplay. This is the sort of item that in older games would probably show up to help you after you died a few too many times, but here it's literally just in toad houses and lying around in the open world. The thing isn't invincible, but it's basically just a more powered up version of the normal acorn, which allows you to now glide infinitely through a whole level before losing its power and reverting back to a regular acorn. A sidebar is the fact that the boss fights were, and still remain, incredibly easy. Jump on a Koopaling or hit Boom Boom 3 times and they're done for. That's it. It's even at the point where you can hit Boom Boom before he even has the chance to attack and just decimate him within seconds. The level design has some new elements, but it's basically just the same boring affair as it continues to be in New Super Mario Bros. Games. Star Coins and Superstar Road add a little more difficulty to the experience, but they're honestly nothing to write home about. Even the sheer amount of shortcuts throughout the overworld seem to denote how much of a filler this game actually is. And I get that Nintendo created this experience for kids, but I'm gonna state the obvious and remind them that just because the game is for kids doesn't mean it can't present somewhat more challenging gameplay or even, dare I say it, new ideas? Now, to its credit, the Wii U game did bring a few new power-ups and tweaks to the table. I will admit that all nostalgia aside, the Acorn is a more enjoyable power-up to use than the Propeller Mushroom ever was. Also, I appreciate that the propeller is more easily obtainable in the port thanks to it being found in enemy courses here rather than just an obscure toad house like it was on the Wii U. But gliding with the Acorn is fun, and I will say that it is a welcome addition to the lineup of Mario power-ups. The Baby Yoshi here are also a lot of fun. The pink variety, which is arguably overpowered but still cool to mess around with, lets you float around, holding onto it like a hot air balloon. The blue and gold varieties, which shoot bubbles and light up caves respectively, are more balanced and are also a joy to use. An old power-up which received a very welcome change is the Mini Mushroom. It retains all its original properties with the added feature of letting you run straight up walls with enough speed. They're still somewhat annoying, but at least this makes them slightly more justifiable to pick up outside of just, using them to get mandatory star coins. My favorite element of the base New Super Mario Bros. U experience, which returns, is the challenge mode. Now, before when I said I wish that the story mode had much more difficult gameplay, this honestly goes beyond what I had in mind, and I loved it for that. Within challenge mode, there are 4 separate modes. Time trials are one of my favorite, because they present the levels from the base game, but demand pretty much perfection in the way you execute each maneuver in order to reach the flagpole. Going for the gold medal in these actually helped me appreciate the level design in a way that the base game couldn't, even if I am just blasting through them without appreciating anything. Okay, that kind of makes a lot of sense. The 1-up rallies aren't really that great, but they take time to get good at, even though they aren't all that inspired. Coin collection challenges are also fun and take a moderate amount of skill, admittedly less than that asked by time trials. The special challenges, however, are hands down my favorites. They ask a variety of random conditions for completion and are designed with challenging players in mind. They start off nail-bitingly difficult right from the get-go, which is equal parts frustrating as well as giving me the difficulty I wanted. The other modes here are Boost Rush and Coin Battle. These are, fun little distractions, but are honestly best enjoyed in co-op for about half an hour before you forget about them forever, My other favorite part of this experience is probably New Super Luigi U. This originally paid DLC comes as a mode within the Deluxe, and I probably had the majority of my fun here. It suffers from the same presentation woes as the rest of the game, but the gameplay makes up for that. The 100-second timer for each redesigned level turns it into a whole new sort of Mario platformer. The first world is a fun dash through courses which gets a little harder every world. Whenever Luigi says, "You made it," I found myself agreeing with him at times. The difficulty never demands perfection, however it at least pushes you more than the main game did. The level designs here are superior because they were built with this faster, floatier gameplay in mind, even down to more obvious star coin locations. These short bursts of energetic gameplay feel like they could have been tailor-made for the portable functionality of the Switch and are great to play on the go. A pet peeve here is that the extra 100 seconds per boss battle feels a little too generous. The bosses here are still fairly easy, and therefore this probably could have been cut down to 50 while still being fair. In terms of presentation, it did disappoint me that this featured the exact same overworld and cutscenes as New Super Mario Bros. U, albeit with Mario missing, which, I enjoyed. Also, the fast-paced nature of the game, along with more frequent deaths, sort of made me wish there was an instant respawn mechanic as well as shorter or even just no cutscenes. Since this isn't the case, it can sometimes feel as though you were playing a platformer sandwiched between massive sections of idle time. All in all though, this mode is a fun novelty, and I'd actually gladly play another New Super Luigi game in the future due to this simple twist and the new level design aspects it presents. Now, this review has thus far really only covered the base game. However, the port did actually make a few neat changes, as well as many which I found detrimental to the original. Now, before I go full rant, I'm just gonna say the game is fun to have portable even with its shortcomings, and the spin jump being remapped to the jump button feels like a no-brainer and was welcome. Now, my main issue with this port is the newly introduced Toadette. She isn't a bad character per se. I like that she receives more 1-ups, can stop shorter, and can run faster, as well as her unique crown power-up, which turns her into Peachette. By the way, I think Peachette's posh accent is hilarious, because it's basically just how Toadette probably thinks Peach talks. It's great. But something weird about the crown is that it's basically just a reskinned P-Acorn, so I don't really see why it's here. Also, the 1-up thing is irrelevant because there's, as I said, basically no penalty for death in this game. My main complaint about her is that she, as well as Nabbit, who is now playable in the base Mario Bros. U game, takes the slot which Blue Toad once inhabited. This means that if you feel like recapturing the chaotic 4-player madness of the Wii U experience, one person will always have to play as one of these unfairly advantaged characters. They aren't a bad idea for younger siblings and such, but if 4 adult friends wish to play, this basically means one of them is always going to be carrying. Blue Toad is still technically here as a skin for Yellow Toad, but this begs the question as to why they couldn't just let him be the 4th player if you choose him. There's no new levels or anything here, and honestly, the fact that I'm not even asking for them to be added should just go to show how mediocre I feel that the experience itself is. On the Wii U, I enjoyed this game, and I still didn't fully dislike it here, but the port has been released into a world where we have Super Mario Maker. And therefore, the developers at Nintendo really ought to be sitting down and discussing whether we need more of these cookie-cutter installments in a world where that exists. I love 2D Mario and feel that it should still exist and evolve somehow, but if the next installment is just another copycat sequel to this, then I want nothing to do with it. New Super Luigi might have been better as a standalone title if I'm being totally honest. For that sake, I'll grade the two separately and then average them for my final score. New Super Luigi U gets a 5 out of 10 from me, whereas New Super Mario Bros. U receives a 3 out of 10. And keep in mind, that's only because of its challenge mode if I'm being totally honest. The average here is 4. But I have to knock it further due to the fact that the port actually makes the main story worse. This game gets a 3.5 out of 10, and honestly that pains me to say. I really hope Nintendo can do better with whatever they have planned for 2D Mario in the future, but if not, I'm out. Thank you for watching this review of New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. If you enjoyed it, be sure to check out some of my other videos, as well as hitting that subscribe button, bell, and the like button. Also, feel free to leave comments or suggestions on how to improve my reviews going forward. I'm trying to make this a full-time endeavor, and your help can make that happen. Thanks again for watching. See you later.